If you could all, settle down. Thank you very much. Very happy. Yeah, we start and we, Elisa, when she joins, we invite her. Yeah? Okay, perfect. No worries. All right. Good morning, everyone. Very happy to be here. A very warm welcome to all of you. My name is Sundus Saleemi, and I'm a researcher at the Leibniz Center for Agricultural Landscape Research in Germany. And today I will be moderating this panel with my co-moderator, Bruna. Bruna.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Bruna. I'm a researcher at PEAK, Potsdam Institute for Climate Research. I work at the LEL system, doing the assessment of planetary boundaries. The session today will be in a hybrid mode, so feel free to do your questions in Portuguese or in English. Welcome. Okay. Okay. Okay, I can do that. We have time. So, bom dia. Meu nome é Bruna. Eu sou pesquisadora no Instituto na Alemanha, o PEAK, focado em pesquisa de mudanças climáticas, os impactos das mudanças climáticas. Eu trabalho com limites planetários e no contexto do LL System, focado em sustentabilidade sistêmica. Eu estou trabalhando na avaliação desses limites planetários e como eles estão sendo afetados, como é que a gente pode medir esses limites em diferentes escalas, do global para o local. A sessão de hoje vai ser em português e em inglês. Por isso, vocês vão ter, quem quiser fazer perguntas no final, fazer comentários, estejam à vontade. Obrigada.
Thank you, Bruna. So yes, this is a panel co-organized by many institutes included in LL Sustain, and we're also very happy to have members of the Feminist Land Platform with us today, and they will introduce themselves. So the questions that we are asking in this panel, which we call more of a science-society dialogue, is how and what innovative strategies and technologies can protect and restore biodiversity, soil health, and ecosystems without compromising food production, a very tall order, but we have an excellent panel to talk about all of that with us. How can these innovative strategies, which are often implemented in research contexts in the global north, be scaled up regionally and locally, also implemented in the countries of the global south? What role science, policy, and society dialogues can play in the scaling up of these strategies? And how can we build effective bridges between science and social movements, society outside of academia? And we also want to talk about how can different kind of knowledges, so the knowledge that comes from, institutions, scientific institutions, as we call them, and the knowledge, traditional knowledge, indigenous knowledge, and knowledge that communities have accumulated over millennia, how can we build bridges between these knowledges? To talk about all of this with us today, we have our panelists with us, and we have a panelist joining us online. So I'll introduce all of them now, and those of the panelists who are here, I invite them to join me on the stage. I'll first introduce our online panelist, Dr. Michelle Chevelev-Bonatti. Thank you, Michelle. Dr. Michelle works on the co-creation of innovations in social learning for sustainable land use. She's an agronomic engineer with a master in rural development from the Buenos Aires University and a PhD from the Humboldt University in Berlin. She works on development and research projects in Latin America, Asia, and Africa, and she has received 4 prizes for outstanding academic performance. We're very happy to have you, Michelle.
Thank you so much. It's a
And
pleasure.
joining us, yeah, you're very welcome. I think I should wait because obviously there's a bit of a lag between when we hear you and when you hear us. Sorry about that. And joining us here in the room is Dr. Marcus Lana. Marcus, you can join us on the stage now. Dr. Marcus is an agronomist. He's an associate professor in cropping systems at the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences in Uppsala. His research focuses on cropping systems, agroecology, and crop modeling, with emphasis on enhancing the sustainability and resilience of crop production systems under changing climatic conditions. He also serves as the General Secretary of the European Association for Agroecology, where he works to strengthen the role of agroecology in European policy and research agendas. Thank you, Marcus. Also joining us is Dr. Sandro Schlindwein. Sandro is a full professor in the Department of Rural Engineering at the Federal University of Santa Catarina. He earned his PhD in soil science from the University of Göttingen in Germany. And he currently serves as the member of the board of World Organization for Systems and Cybernetics, and as an associate editor of Kybernetes, if I'm saying that right. Thank you very much, Sandro. We're also joined by the UNESCO chair, Dr. Miguel Klusner-Gott. And I'm sorry if I don't say the Gott very correctly. I just cannot pronounce German, even though I... Thank you very much. And later, Elisa Urbano, member of the Feminist Land Platform and leader of the indigenous movements, will join us as well. The format of this talk is that our panelists will give very brief introductions, like their presentations, 5 to 7 minutes, and then we can just have an open discussion on the topics that they're talking about. We will start with our first presentation, and I call on Dr. Michelle to give her opening remarks. Michelle.
Thank you very much, Sundus. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here today. I had prepared a very short presentation. I hope I will accomplish with the 7 minutes. Maybe it will take some minutes more. I'm also confused if I should speak a little bit in Portuguese parallelly to do a kind of translation, or I just go ahead in English.
In the room on how many people prefer Portuguese. Yeah. Okay. Yes, please. You may do your presentation in Portuguese.
Ok, certo. Então eu vou mudar rapidamente e tentar me adaptar, porque está tudo escrito em inglês. Espero que vocês consigam me ouvir bem. Para mim tem um certo eco. Como é que está o áudio para vocês? Is it fine on the audio? I had the feeling there is a lot of echo.
Yes, we can hear. Podemos te ouvir bem.
Ok, muito bem. Então, bom dia a todos. Novamente é uma honra estar aqui hoje também com meus colegas presentes no painel. Eu vou falar hoje sobre as estratégias comunitárias baseadas na agroecologia e de adaptação à mudança climática que estão originadas no sul global. O contexto da emergência dessas estratégias são a agenda atual recente de sustentabilidade que foca essencialmente nas plataformas de multiatores, onde nós trabalhamos com transdisciplinaridade e tentamos reconhecer que existe uma gama de diferentes atores com diferentes epistemologias e tentamos integrar eles em sistemas, em criação de novos sistemas de conhecimento. E a justificativa é que nós estamos tentando não estarmos baseados somente nos modelos tecnocráticos de inovações. Então, se busca que não só a tecnologia, mas também diferentes sistemas de conhecimento estejam integrados na criação de novas tecnologias. Mas, e se todos esses novos sistemas de conhecimento que nós estamos tentando criar dentro da perspectiva acadêmica já existem? Ou muitos deles já existem, que vão além daqueles que nós já sabemos? E se nós estivermos focando majoritariamente e equivocadamente na criação somente de novos sistemas? Um exemplo desses sistemas existentes de conhecimento são as agroflorestas, que hoje em dia estão em evidência na academia, especialmente no contexto do norte, mas que são sistemas de conhecimento baseados em conhecimentos indígenas milenares. Então, essa foi a grande motivação dos dois estudos que eu vou rapidamente trazer para vocês hoje. Revelar ou reconhecer os novos sistemas de conhecimentos que já existem, tentando evitar, reinventar, né, os sistemas de conhecimentos que já são efetivos e estão operantes na realidade do sul global. Então, o primeiro estudo, rapidamente, vocês têm aqui o link dele, ele está publicado para maiores detalhes. O que a gente tentou fazer nesse estudo, e com todo um conjunto de pesquisadores que estão aqui, que alguns deles estão aqui comigo hoje também, aí no painel, foi fazer uma análise global para entender como os sistemas de aprendizado social se configuram, né? Existe o termo aprendizado social, social learning, ele é amplamente utilizado hoje dentro da agenda da sustentabilidade, justamente nessa perspectiva de trazer diferentes atores e os seus conhecimentos para negociar o que seriam as inovações necessárias. E apesar de ter muitos estudos sobre social learning, o que a gente tem pouco na literatura é o entendimento de como os sistemas de conhecimento, os diferentes tipos de aprendizado social se configuram em diferentes condições geopolíticas, né? No caso aqui no sul global ou norte global. E embora essa divisão norte-sul tenha limitações, ela representa um dos últimos avanços nessas determinações de geopolítica. Então, foi isso que a gente foi fazer nesse estudo. A gente foi identificar se existem padrões, fazer uma análise global, para identificar se existem padrões de aprendizado sociais relacionados ao contexto geopolítico. A gente fez uma análise temática da literatura existente, partindo de 4.000 estudos e chegando a uma amostra de 137 casos de aprendizado social nos 5 continentes. Fizemos uma análise, uma divisão de categorias de análise estatísticas, e nós encontramos o quê? Encontramos que existem pelo menos, provavelmente mais, mas pelo menos 2 padrões de aprendizado social, e eles se relacionam com a posição geopolítica onde eles estão, majoritariamente. Então, as correlações positivas apresentaram 2 modelos, o modelo endógeno e o modelo exógeno de aprendizado social. Aqui vocês têm uma figura que mostra todos os elementos de cada um dos modelos. O modelo endógeno, que vai aparecer mais no sul global e mais na América Latina, embora apareça em outros lugares também, é relacionado com os modelos de aprendizado social que são liderados pelas comunidades, que têm poucos recursos econômicos, né? Geralmente eles não são esses modelos de aprendizado social para o manejo sustentável dos recursos naturais que tem fundos. Geralmente ele é liderado pela comunidade sem fundos, ele não foca somente no aumento do conhecimento ambiental, como a gente explora, né, do conhecimento sobre as questões do meio ambiente, mas também foca no aumento da capacidade crítica e também no aumento da coesão social nas comunidades. E o outro modelo, em contraste, o modelo mais exógeno, é o modelo tipo que a gente tem de projetos de pesquisa, né, onde geralmente nós temos fundos, então são modelos financiados, liderados ou trazendo para a mesa de debate representantes institucionais, né? Então são pessoas que estão representando instituições, organizações. Ele aparece mais no norte global e é mais relacionado com um aumento específico de um determinado conhecimento relacionado às questões do meio ambiente. Aqui a divisão, como ele aparece geopoliticamente, né? O azul são os modelos endógenos e os mais vermelhos, laranjas, são os modelos endógenos, que aparecem mais no sul global. E aí, entendendo que nós encontramos um padrão de aprendizado social que é mais endógeno e mais relacionado à dinâmicas e às racionalidades das comunidades, a gente fez um segundo estudo para entender mais a fundo como que esses modelos de aprendizado social se operacionalizam em suas bases pedagógicas, ou seja, quais são as pedagogias desses processos de aprendizado social endógeno. Então, a gente aqui, outro estudo também publicado com vários colaboradores, e nós analisamos 3 experiências. Uma experiência no Brasil, chamada Revolução dos Baldinhos, que ocorre no sul do Brasil, onde são 3 experiências que nós chamamos exitosas, né, experiências de sucesso, sobre como fazer um manejo efetivo dos recursos naturais, né? E essas 3 experiências, a do Brasil, por exemplo, um dos êxitos, né, dessa experiência é a possibilidade da comunidade de reciclar 8 toneladas de material orgânico das comunidades para transformar em hortas comunitárias e comida para essas comunidades. A experiência da Colômbia, que são as escolas campesinas de agroecologia, onde um eixo de 22 escolas comunitárias criadas também promove práticas sustentáveis de agricultura. E a experiência no Peru do conhecimento tradicional dos agricultores nos Andes, que conservam mais de 4.000 espécies de batata, entre outras variedades de outros vegetais. Essas 3 experiências, como eu disse, são casos de sucesso que, embora ainda enfrentam diversos desafios, mostram sobre essa sustentabilidade que a gente busca em muitos dos nossos projetos. Então, a gente analisou as pedagogias, como que esse conhecimento da sustentabilidade ou da agricultura sustentável se expressa, como é que ele é criado nessas comunidades, também publicado recentemente. E o que a gente analisou nessas experiências foram 8 componentes, a gente chama de 8 categorias de análise, né? A primeira é o contexto que esse conhecimento é criado, né? O que gera, né? O que impulsiona esse aprendizado nessas comunidades, o conteúdo que eles aprendem e a sequência desse conteúdo, como é que esse conteúdo vai sendo estruturado ou sequenciado, que tipos de participantes estão envolvidos nesse processo de aprendizado, quais são os métodos que eles usam, quais são os espaços de aprendizado, espaços físicos, né, de aprendizado, quais são as fontes de conhecimento, né, quais são os canais de conhecimento e as fontes, da onde que vem esse conhecimento, quais são os... agora como é que falar isso em português? Quais são os resultados relacionais, né? O que se gera de relações nesse processo, e que identidades e narrativas compõem esse processo de aprendizado. Aqui, rapidamente, eu já estou indo para o final, porque eu sei que o tempo é curto. Nós encontramos, primeiro, elementos comuns, né, nessas três iniciativas, que são um aprendizado criado, baseado nas racionalidades das comunidades, nas estruturas das comunidades, ou seja, os espaços são espaços comunitários, o conteúdo é um conteúdo vinculado às realidades, às problemáticas da comunidade, especialmente. O processo é impulsionado por uma criação de identidade, então, nessas três iniciativas, a gente vê que a necessidade de reforço, mas de entendimento, e isso faz parte do próprio processo da capacidade crítica, né, que é também uma coisa bastante trazida pelo Paulo Freire, do entendimento da própria identidade, do próprio protagonismo na mudança das realidades que eles vivem, e entendimento mais profundo das problemáticas, né, das razões, das raízes dessas problemáticas. É um elemento comum também que os sistemas agrícolas, os sistemas, né, agrícolas que eles manejam, também relacionado a um conhecimento situado, né? Então, é um conhecimento para a transformação dessa realidade local, né? Embora essas iniciativas já tenham tentado ser reproduzidas em outras comunidades, eventualmente dado sucesso. E a gente também acha algumas diferenças entre essas iniciativas, que é o que a gente vê ao redor, aqui a gente vê o núcleo comum, né, e ao redor a gente vê o que se diferencia nessas diferentes iniciativas, que é basicamente a narrativa, né, o contexto que esse conhecimento emerge, no caso...
Sorry, I will have to interrupt you if you could
accelerate.
One minute.
I will. Okay, so I already finished here with this slide. There is some details. Just to finalize with some conclusions, what we see in these two studies is that innovation is not only new, so it might also involve. Isso também se relaciona com a integração e com o reconhecimento, né, de práticas já existentes que já demonstram resiliência em cenários muito complexos, como são os dessas comunidades que a gente avaliou, né, e que a adaptação à mudança climática pode ser acelerada quando a gente reconhece essas complementaridades entre o conhecimento local e o conhecimento científico. Muito obrigada, esse é o meu fechamento, eu fico aqui por mais um tempo, caso tenham perguntas.
Thank you very much, Michelle, for that presentation. Do you have time to take a few questions before you... Do we have questions for Michelle? Please ask now, because she has to leave early for another commitment. Yeah, Marion.
I would just like you to explain a little more the exogenous and endogenous learning type. I didn't quite catch that.
Okay. Well, we had, as I said before, like we had in the literature a lot of models of how social learning happens, but what we normally don't have if it's those models operate equally in North or South context. So that's what we went to do. We went through the literature, and through 9 different categories of analysis, we try to identify who are the participants, for example, which was one category of analysis. What are the participants of social learning process in different cases? What are the methods that they use? And we classified all those indicators and correlate them to see where they appear. And we found those 2 models. So the model of an endogenous social learning is the one that is normally led by community people, for community participants, they have less participation of the institutional representatives. So this is the negative correlation, institutional representatives. They are normally related to overall community development, while the exogenous social learning model is very much more focused on natural resource management properly. And in the endogenous model, for example, you see much more that the environmental knowledge, that the natural resource management is related to overall community development. It's a functioning in a whole system of the development, while the exogenous model is very much focused in water management, for example, or in soil improvement. So it's there is a different nature how the social learning happen in those contexts. And then you have other categories, for example, this availability of financial resources. In the exogenous model, the financial resources are much more present, while in the endogenous model, normally this is not present. Maybe it is even one of the issues why the community comes together on their own resources to work together. And we had also an important aspect, what are the methods in the endogenous model? It appears more learning by doing methods, while in the exogenous model, you had the typical project that already come with, for example, established methods. Yeah, I think mainly those are the categories that we analyze and correlate statistically. I don't know if it's clear now.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bruna. I understand that you have to leave now. Thank you so much for taking the time. But if you have 1 minute, you could answer the question, which was from Angelina online. Are you able to see that?
Yeah. So yeah, okay. I still can stay until 2 o'clock, so I will be here, but I will answer also Angelina. I would like to find if the 22 schools. It's a farmers schools. They eventually do activities with children, but it's mainly open schools that are to farmers mostly. And they are organized very differently. Depends where you are. You have some that are initiated, for example, for a group of farmers, and then they communicate to other communities. And if this community is more connected with, for example, local schools, they even organize a school inside of the school, and some communities are farmers that go to the communitarian center to have it. So they have different arrangements, but mostly they focus on farmer organization.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to our next presenter, Dr. Markus Lana. Markus, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Can I use this? Oh, sorry. Yeah, maybe. It's because I like to walk a lot when I talk. You know, old habits of teaching. I think I need a presentation here. Oh, is it here? Well, sorry, I don't want to destroy the whole thing. Great. Thank you. So my name is Markus Lana, and I'm here with two different hats today. One is from the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences, and the other one is from one association called Agroecology Europe. I will start very quickly, just to make sure that we are talking about the same things. And since we are here because of the COP and other things around, it's important that we have clarity on some very crucial terms when we talk about climate change and variation. And this slide, I put it in this evening because I realized that maybe yesterday I was not able to properly communicate my understanding of climate variation and change. Basically, climate variability is everything that happens within a 30-year principle, and climate change is when we have 2 periods of 30 years that we can compare, and then we can find a statistical difference. It's very important, if we want to be on the same page, that we clarify those things. Then also about the future. We know pretty well the past, and the models are working fine into the past. And then into the future, because we have a lot of uncertainty, we also have different projections and models. And then I just want to show you about temperature for 2050, 2081. If I'm, oh no, sorry, 2081 to 2100. Those are 2 different scenarios. The one that will be 2.5 and the one 8.5. This one here is very catastrophic. This here is unrealistic because we are already at this point here of 2 degrees increase. And this is temperature, and this down here is for rainfall. Temperature is very clear. The trend is easy to simulate. The problem is rainfall, which is dependent on way more factors. But we have some general trends that we are seeing here. And then when it comes to agriculture, also from a global perspective, we can see that indeed there are regions that are going to suffer quite a lot, and those are the top 5 crops worldwide. Do not include traditional cropping systems in here. We still don't know how to simulate them in crop models. But we see that along the equator, most cropping systems will suffer. In higher latitudes, there will be some benefits. But again, those are results based on models. Our level of understanding here is not so good yet. What is very important when we talk about crops? Sorry? Oh, okay. I would ask for the collaboration of the audience. Thank you. So when we talk about crops and cropping systems, a very important concept is this GME, the genotype, the management, and environment. At the end of a season, when we harvest something, this harvest is defined not only, but mainly by those 3 different elements. The genotype of the crop, or maybe the cultivar of the different crops, the environment, which kind of soil, which kind of weather do we have, and also then the management. This is how we decide when the sowing date, irrigation, fertilization, and so on. It's very important that we take into account those things, because here is where we manipulate our cropping systems, especially here in the M and the G part. Good. Oh, sorry. Yeah. It would be nice if the word could be divided easily in A and B. Reality is way more complex than this, but let's try to just take the extremes so that we can have a kind of reference point. On the left side, we can see what we call the industrial conventional cropping system based on monoculture, and the basic paradigm of this system here is that we change the environment to make it fit for the crops that we want to grow. In this kind of system here that we believe that we call it the agroecological one, is that we change our way of working, our cropping system, to fit it to the environmental conditions we have. Usually traditional farming systems are operating at this level here because they learn how to grow crops within the system that they had. And here is very industrial, where usually the solutions come in a bag. Let me see how much time I have. Oh, because oh God, it will take a little bit longer. What I want to show you, probably you know about this, is about agroecology. What is an approach. Agroecology is not a recipe, it's not a set of guidelines, but is an approach for farming. And we say that it is an approach that operates at the food system level. I am an agronomist. I'm in charge in crop production. I feel very comfortable to operate at this level here, which is much more the farm gate level, field and farm gate, while above here we have much more the social, the broader perspective domains. And they are very important. And even a conventional agronomist will hardly be against those principles. And what is also very important, and it is different from organic agriculture. Organic agriculture is defined by law, and it has regulations, laws. the agroecological principles, they are just guidelines. They are pointing the direction. The way that you get there depends on your local conditions. And then we have the very biophysical one, nutrient recycling of nutrients, animal health, biodiversity. And as we start to go up, we have co-creation of knowledge, fairness, gender aspects, youth also. Those are the things that we are working with when we talk about agroecology. And agroecology is not something that you come with a book of recipes and boom. There are transitions. And I like very much these 5 levels of transition because they help to guide us how to change the system. The first level is when we increase the efficiency of what we do. And it's very important when we talk to farmers because the farmer will not change his whole system at once. Then we say, okay, you're using synthetic fertilizers, fine. Try to use them in a way that you increase the efficiency of them so that you might reduce the amount of them. Stage 2 is when we start to substitute. Instead of a synthetic solution, a pesticide or a chemical fertilizer, try to find an organic biological option. And then stage 3 is when we start to redesign the system in which the pesticide or the excess of nutrients might not be necessary anymore because the system starts to provide this kind of things. And then level 4 and 5 are much more societal, high-scale, high-level changes that I'm not really competent to talk about. And are there evidences that agroecology can be a good idea? Agroecology has been accused of a lot of things in the last 40 years. Ideologic, dreamy, non-scientific, so you can name it. So we are collecting more and more evidence. And like this is scientific, high-level scientific evidence about agroecology. From the biological part, from the economical part, from the sociological part. Those evidences are there, and they show that agroecology works. The economic part, which usually is the most critical one, shows that in 60% of the agroecological experience they had, the agroecological system was more profitable. 60%. In 30%, the conventional one was more productive. And in 30% of the cases, it was the same. So we also have to be honest about the limitations of the system. And because we still have to learn quite a lot of agroecology, we also push the policy to help us to understand more about this. And this is something that we are very proud of because organic agriculture and agroecology always historically had less than 1% of the budget for research in agriculture, historically. And because at the European Commission, we were there saying all the time, well, there are no evidence, we don't know, but the other side also doesn't know. Then they started to open calls, Horizon Europe, and in the next 7 years, 6 or so, in this decade, almost 1 billion euros will be dedicated to research in agroecology. I personally have not got any euro from here, but we are very happy that we opened the gate for other colleagues. There is a lot of greenwashing here, but still is quite a lot. Coming to an end, concrete actions that can support the upscaling of agroecology. Public policies. There is no way to do agroecology and promote agroecology if not through public policies. It's very difficult, if not impossible. And we have to think about the Green Revolution. Green Revolution or conventional agriculture only became what it became because it had a lot of public support. So it should not be different. Good. Very quickly here, education of farmers, consumers, researchers is a little bit what we discussed yesterday. We should get rid of the idea of growth margins as the single metric of success of a system. It's very important. And when we start to talk about efficiency, like family welfare and all those things, this is also important here. We need to have a functional advisory service. And I work really hard on it because we work with farmers, but if we really want to scale up and multiply things, we have to work with the advisors. Why? Because they have a huge capillarity. Me, as a researcher, as someone at the university, I can visit very few farmers per year, which is great. But the advisors, they do this much more effectively. Coming to an yeah, okay. We have different projects here related to this. Living labs are also very important. I will not name all the projects, but Sandro will name one of them later on. there is something that I added, which is a cancellation of resilience, which is when there is a climate event that escapes the boundaries of resilience of our system. When we have extreme events, and given the situation of climate and the climate models, they are indicating that we're going to have more and more events like this, in which our system will collapse. And it's very important for us to understand the limits of the system so that we can prepare for it. However, there are situations in which agroecological systems are very resilient to extreme events. Same location, same day, same hurricane. You see, this part here was a monoculture field of maize. Half of the field is gone, and they will never grow things again. And this picture here was taken from here. And you see that this system, which had agroforestry, much diverse, but was much more stable. One more evidence about agroecology. 2 books. I always like to recommend books. One book about climate change is the one that really teach me a lot about it. Is The Weather Makers, very simple, very didactic. And then there is this one here, not very known, Communication and Extension. It's a book that Paulo Freire. Paulo Freire wrote for agronomists, and I have it in English. It's a PDF somewhere. So to conclude, agroecology nowadays we can say it is an evidence-based approach. We have data to inform policy also, and only a concerted action between policy, between academia and social movements, using also a systemic approach, will allow us to have a proper scaling up with ownership of the local communities and also climate resilient. And thank you very much. I talked too much, but I don't know how many minutes on this, 15?
Thank you very much, Sandro, for that. And of all the things that agroecology is accused of, I don't know if you know that it's also has been called colonial. I have heard that. Agroecology, of all the things it's accused of being, I have also heard that it's colonial, but let's talk about that later. We don't have time for any questions immediately, but later we can. Farida, you have a question? A short one, please.
Now, I really thank you for this, because we in Bangladesh, we are having this debate on so-called modern agriculture or green revolution with agroecology, and we call it biodiversity-based farming also. So there are things that you said are very similar to us. One thing that I wanted to emphasize here is that when we talk about agroecology, we have to talk about seeds, indigenous seeds, because those are the ones which determine whether we will use pesticides or not, fertilizer or not. The dependency created by the seed industry, along with this, so this is something important. And thank you very much for this presentation. I will have to leave because I'm in the COP30, and I will have to leave. So maybe I can say something more, just to introduce myself. Yeah.
You can present yourself and also talk about the feminist platform.
She allows me.
Let me yes. So as I said, our colleagues from the Feminist Land Platform have also joined us because we wanted to talk about, building bridges between social movements and academia. And Farida will introduce the platform and the work that they are doing. Farida, I'm very happy to welcome you on the stage. Please.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry to interrupt the session, but it's really my pleasure. We are the great Feminist Land Platform members. And can I ask my friends to stand up so that people, the Feminist Land Platform. And we are really across the world. and particularly, and I'm the only one from Asia, unfortunately. There is another person in India. So I'm really very happy to be in Brazil and meet our friends in person for the first time, actually. We have been meeting over Zoom, and, so this is the first time in person. At present, when I joined the Feminist Land Platform, it was about the thing that I talked about, the agroecology, biodiversity-based farming, and women keeping seeds, the diversity of seeds. For example, one movement called Naya Krishi, it has, the women have saved more than 3,000 varieties of rice, in collectively. And each of them, like, they can have 10 varieties or everything you talk about. You talk about eggplant, they will say 3 varieties. You talk about chilies, 30 varieties. So everything, if you allow the diversity to happen, then actually you can also meet the climate issues. Like if you have a crop failure due to heat stress or cyclone or flood, then there are other varieties which can be immediately grown. So actually these are the ways. At present, I am representing Bangladesh government in COP30. I am the advisor in the Ministry of Livestock and Fisheries, and this advisor position in the interim government actually means minister. So that's what it is. And I will ask my colleague to share with you some of the brochures. This is about livestock. So, and it's so much integrated. I'm glad that you mentioned animal health also, because we cannot separate fisheries and livestock from the whole food system. So that's how we are doing. And our friends in Feminist Land Platform have been doing wonderful work on the land rights of women. Unfortunately, women in all our regions do not have the ownership of land. That is one of the problems that we are facing. So this is what I have to talk because I have to run to attend a session in the COP 30, and there I will have to be present. And I will ask my colleague Shahina to give some gifts that we brought to our friends. Thank you.
Thank you, Farida. Thank you very much. And we understand it's very busy schedules for everyone. So thank you for understanding also our panelists that we had to, change the order of things. Thank you. So we'll move on to the next presenter, Sandro. You have the floor. Yeah, no, but thank you.
Eu vou esperar o pessoal. Can we start? Yes. Yes. Okay. I can wait, no problem. Yes, thank you. Bom dia a todos e a todas. Good morning to everyone. First of all, I want to thank the organizers for the invitation, particularly Sundus. Thank you very much. No? I'm very glad to be here today to share and to discuss with you some ideas and thoughts of why it is important, from my perspective, to break down disciplinary silos if you want to pursue systemic sustainability. Sundus, I will try to rush through my presentation. So I think the first thing we need to ask is why we need to break down disciplinary silos. And the answer is quite simple. Because we live in an era of expanding complexity, because we live in a world that can be described as a VUCA world. I don't know if you have heard about this term, but VUCA stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And the global problems emerging from this VUCA world and that we need to solve simply don't fit into these silos. I will show you an example of the consequences of disciplinary boundaries on the way people see the world. I used to make an exercise with the students in my course on systems thinking and systems practice, showing them this picture and asking them to describe what they see. What do you think they say in response to this question? I will tell you, some of them respond that they see a crop. Others say they see soil conservation practices, and farmers maybe. A few say they see a watershed, and only a few, really a few, would say they see a rural landscape. But it is very, very seldom and rare that someone would say, I see a system. It's quite rare that someone would say, I see an agroecosystem. It almost never happens. Therefore, what this exercise is possibly revealing to us is that most students, and I would say most of us, we have lost our systemic sensibilities and our capability of thinking in relational terms, which is quite fundamental for interdisciplinary integration. Or to put it in other terms, this happens because the students and we are making different distinctions based on a particular background or discipline. And this makes us to see the world only in a particular way. That is, the distinctions between different systems of interest. It means the systems that we are bringing into existence is the result of adopting different disciplinary boundaries. Here in this picture, you can see that this is the context, but based on different disciplinary boundaries, people that have different backgrounds are making different distinctions. If we want to achieve at this point, we need an effective interdisciplinary team taking into consideration these different disciplines. So as you can see, the task at hand is not a minor one. No, it's quite difficult. It's not easy, I would say, to break these disciplinary boundaries. Therefore, considering, and if we accept that we are living in a VUCA world, and considering the consequences of disciplinary fragmentation, we could ask about the kind of approach that we need to improve the complex problem situations of which we are a part. And the kind of approach we need must be capable of dealing with increasing systems uncertainties and rising decision stakes. You can see when we are using or when we are basing of what we are doing on applied science, the systems uncertainties are normally low and decision stakes are also low. If we move into this direction, where the systems uncertainties are increasing, as also the decision stakes, we need a different kind of science. No, that includes all the other, but which is different. And regarding the approach, we need to move from what I'm showing you here, from an iceberg approach to a systems-based approach, if you want to understand and manage complex problem situations. Instead of looking only at the symptoms, the level where most decisions and interventions normally take place, we need an approach capable of moving decision makers, stakeholders, and researchers to appreciate deeper levels of thinking in order to provide a better understanding of the systems under consideration. And this is also a way to break disciplinary silos, but also the result of breaking disciplinary silos. In this figure, we can see that there are several, I don't know if you can see it because the letters are quite small, but we can see that several or many different contemporary cyber systemic approaches that were developed within different traditions of understanding that can be adopted to deal with the problems of the VUCA world. So in other words, we are not short of systems approaches, as you can see. Or let's say we have a lot of options. We do have a lot of options to break with disciplinary silos. And the question may be why we are not adopting them. Or why only in a few circumstances people are adopting this kind of approaches. So taking into consideration my more than 30 years experience in agrosystems research, I will try to summarize some of the lessons learned if you want to transform current ways of knowing and doing, which are largely based on disciplinary silos. So on one important point that we should not forget is that formal systems concepts or systems theories, although everybody, almost everybody, is all the time using the word system, very important is that people have not adopted those systems in a rigorous scholarly manner in research practices. So people, if you ask someone what they are conceptualizing in terms of systems, normally people cannot talk a lot. This is very important. We need to use those systems in a rigorous scholarly manner. The other point is that, in my view, to raise epistemological awareness, systems literacy, to really know and expose those different approaches, and effective communication between disciplines are essential for fostering non-disciplinary inquiry and promoting interdisciplinary integration. And in order to make this happen, a very important issue in my view is to create appropriate institutional circumstances to foster the desire to cross disciplinary boundaries. If we look for our reward systems in science, our whole reward systems in science is based on disciplines and in disciplinary boundaries. So therefore, we need to create institutional circumstances to cross the secure borders. People feel very secure within a discipline. To cross these borders is insecure. So we need to create the circumstances for this to happen. And if we want to seek systemic sustainability, what I'm going to tell now is represented in this picture, here in this figure. We need to recover systemic sensibility. Remember that I showed the picture asking what people see, no? We need to recover systemic sensibility. To build systems literacy, it is important that we have also courses on systems thinking and practice, because if you look for the Brazilian landscape, for instance, but also in other countries, we normally don't find courses on systems thinking or in cyber systemic thinking or in systems methodologies and system practices. It's quite rare. No, I think that in the Anglo-Saxon world, particularly in UK, you will find more. No, because in Hull, in the University of Hull, you nowadays can even get or do a master's and PhD program on systems thinking and practice. But it's not quite common to have this kind of courses, because also recovering systemic sensibility to build systems literacy, we need to develop this capability of adopting systems thinking in practice. So I think if you really want to break down those silos, we need to take into account those considerations. And my last slide, in my view, we need to break disciplinary silos if we want to reconnect humans and the biophysical world. And I'm using this picture here of Gregory Bateson. Maybe some of you know Gregory Bateson. Gregory Bateson was an anthropologist and cybernetician, and he used to talk about the patterns that connect. And I think in order to recognize the patterns that reconnect us with the biophysical world, we need to break disciplinary silos and to adopt these cyber systemic approaches. And the other day I read this very interesting phrase, as we view the world differently, the world we view also changes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sandro. I'd like to call Miguel now for his presentation. And while our wonderful Manuela uploads his presentation, are there any questions for Sandro? Marion.
As the leader of a working group that was formed over 20 years ago on social ecological systems analysis, I would like to comment that, well, systems are a way of reducing the complexity of the real world. So there are very different ways of conceptualizing systems. So this idea of what is the system is always a heuristic device. So there will always be many systems definitions. And that's something that is necessary because it's a device in order to understand or do something about reality. So I think we will never achieve an agreement on what's the system unless we have a complete agreement on what we are aiming to talk about or alter. So in that context, we have to accept many systems definitions, but I agree that we do have to agree in any particular context what is the system we're talking about.
Thank you very much, Marion. I agree completely with you. But the issue is also that we need to be aware of the boundary judgments that we are making. And most of the people are not. No, because as you said, and I prefer to see systems as an epistemological device. No, so and not like as systems existing in the world that we can really engineer. No, there are different approaches. No, about that, but I prefer this epistemological one. No, but I agree completely with you. Thank you.
Okay. So we are having some difficulty opening the presentation, but Miguel will already start his talk. Miguel, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Sundus. Just before putting the presentation on the screen, I can already start presenting myself. I'm Miguel Cruz-Nagot. I've been working here with the Amazon since 1992, particularly with Naya and with Professor Luis Aragon. I worked more than 30 years with UNESCO in Paris. And my last appointment was directing the Division of Ecological Earth Sciences and being the secretary of the Man and the Biosphere Program and the World Network of Biosphere Reserves and of Geoparks. So right now I'm a senior research associate with the University of Coimbra in Portugal. So today I would briefly summarize a little bit what was discussed yesterday in the parallel session. First of all, I hope everybody knows about UNESCO. It's a specialized agency of the UN working on education, science, culture, communication, and social sciences. So 5 main pillars. So it was in the science sector. And in this science sector, there is the Division of Ecological Sciences that is implementing the World Network of Biosphere Reserves, and I will explain that. The other part of it is, of course, the UNESCO chairs. What does this mean? And where is the relationship from the biosphere reserves and these UNESCO chairs, what we're doing here? And my last point would be, oh, screen is still white. PDF not working? Yeah. Yeah, but should be working normally. And another one is, of course, the last will be an immediate future perspective for Brazil. So I hope we get something on the screen, because yesterday it worked. So try the presentation from yesterday. Yesterday it worked. Try that one. Then I will. Yeah, there we are. Okay, so we go with that. I can move forward with this here. Or... Okay. So when you can see UNESCO chairs, unity networks. This is something launched in 1992 for inter-university cooperation. Right now, there are some 1,000 chairs and 45 networks in 125 countries of the world. It is really to bring in cooperation between these 5 main disciplines of UNESCO that I already mentioned, to contribute to the development of societies. This is really to tackle immediate emerging issues and to develop international normative instruments. So, you know, UNESCO is more a sort of intellectual agency. It's not a funding agency. So what comes out of the result is recommendations that go to the regional, particular to the national level. So our clients, in inverted commas, are of course national governments. federal governments here, for example, in Brazil, that we deal with directly. Is bringing together academia, civil society, local communities, and of course, the policy makers. We have 4 chairs in this network we are dealing right now here with Inaya, Professor Luis Aragon, already mentioned, working on these topics like biodiversity, higher education, sustainable development, natural resources, and environment conservation. The next chair is at the Yokohama National University with Professor Hiroyuki Matsuda, bringing in education for sustainable development, biodiversity, but also cultural diversity. And one point I haven't mentioned here is working on human-nature conflicts. The third one is the University of Heidelberg, Pädagogische Hochschule. It's university on, let's say education, more education focused, on World Heritage Sites, natural World Heritage Sites is another program of UNESCO, and biosphere reserves. And the fourth one is where I'm right now affiliated to, is the UNESCO Chair on Biodiversity Safeguard for Sustainable Development, University of Coimbra in Portugal. Sustainable education, again, biosphere reserves, but also this ESD, education for sustainable development. And I think we heard from the presentations already this morning, this need on the educational part to foster that. So what is this network of chairs, of course, doing? Is elaborating methodologies, exchange programs, demonstrative actions between academia and local entities, focusing concerning this network on biosphere reserves. There's a lot of information elaborated there, but how it does come to as a civil society, how is this fostering citizen science, and how is this supporting the local actors of the biosphere reserves. And I will later bring an example. Of course, the partnership between biosphere reserves and UNESCO chairs is not evident. It must be created. It must be managed. There were several MOUs signed that really officialized this. Some events now that this network had is in the University of Coimbra, talking about this 30 by 30 challenge. I think you all know about the Kunming-Montreal Protocol, which is quite clear. 30% of the world surface protected, 10% strictly protected. But how it comes to a direct country level, because it's nice to have a very global view, global decisions, but how can we bring this together? So we had several meetings there in Portugal, in Belém here last year for the anniversary. And we had, of course, on the advisory committee of one chair. Very important this year was the 5th World Congress on Biosphere Reserves. I will later explain this biosphere reserve in Hangzhou in China. These congresses are not like COP every year. These congresses are every 10 years that decide the functioning of the program. Some 2,000 people meet. This is the global community directing these sites. And of course, the UNESCO chairs this network, made an event and brought in this topic of 30 by 30 that I already mentioned to that. So this time we are here, we're meeting here. This is a whole part on blue carbon. I think I will skip that because this is what I presented yesterday. So what are we talking about here on blue carbon is very important because we go, I think, this afternoon to Bragança. It's a huge mangrove area, and I think we will see how this fits into the work these UNESCO chairs are doing. This is the Montreal Protocol that I already mentioned. Coming now quickly to the biosphere reserve, because I see time is running out. Now, after the last Hangzhou Congress, these figures have to be corrected. It's now 784 biosphere reserve in 142 countries. more than 300 million people are living in these sites. If you push all this together, all these individual sites that are all over the world would be roughly the size of China mainland. So it is not the entire world, but it is quite a big part of it. What is a biosphere reserve? It is something like a park, a protected area, the core area, which really follows the whole national protection scheme. Here I put an example of the Mata Atlântica Biosphere Reserve in Brazil. Why is this so important? Because what we heard yesterday, that on the Amazon, the whole forest of the Amazon is still 80% preserved, like it was, let's say, in the past. Mata Atlântica is only 5% left. So it's urgent there to do something, because we are coming at the limits. I think we heard here today already something on boundaries. We are there at the boundary. I think here in Amazonia, although threatened, we are not really at the boundary. Next one is the buffer zone. This is this green, dark green side here, mainly dedicated to conservation, but already buffering from the used area to the core area. Here's an example of the Yellowstone Park. This is, of course, a used area, traditional area, but of course we know Yellowstone is also a World Heritage Site, so dedicated to conservation. And the third area is the surrounding area, I would say for me the important area, because there is where the activities are taking place and how these activities are linked to nature protection, because there the people are living there. And I put here on purpose something on a very small country, Luxembourg. This is a former industrial site, Minute Biosphere Reserve, that produced iron or steel, and it has been closed, and it has been now reshaped to fit in to a sustainable development initiatives, because all the countries are different, all the living conditions are different, but this scheme is to be implemented everywhere. And we know exactly for many countries, if we want to protect something, but if we have a problem here, it will simply not work. So we have to see how to link it up, and I think this is for the systematic approach that you mentioned, quite important. Where are these sites now, these famous biosphere reserves? 784 in 142 countries. You see the little green dots here all over the place. You will remark still one thing. There are areas with many dots and areas with almost no dot. How is coming? Biosphere reserve is not just a park. Biosphere reserve is a scheme where people are living. So where the people are living, you will find the biosphere reserve. Where nobody is living, you will not find biosphere reserve. That's the big difference to a park scheme or to a natural World Heritage scheme. So coming now, this will be my last point here, to Brazil. Brazil has 7 biosphere reserves. In Brazil, everything is big. So also the biosphere reserves are big. The Mata Atlântica, almost 900,000 square kilometers, or I think 14 federal states. Right now we are here. There is in the Amazon, in the Brazilian Amazon, the only one is the Central Amazon Biosphere Reserve here in green. You see 208,000 square kilometers. And I always insist, it is not only a park, it is an integrated scheme of protection and sustainable development. The Mata Atlântica was something that worked out here in this area, and we know now 5% is left. The rest have been transformed to urban areas, coffee plantations, and so on and so forth. Why this is so important and why I'm coming back to the Kunming Protocol. When you add all this, and you know the total area of Brazil, 8.5 million square kilometers, the national territory covered by biosphere reserve is 22.38%. We are here in Belém. Here is the island of Marajó. And with Naya, in the work here been done in the last 20 years, was possibly get at least this part of the island of Marajó as a biosphere reserve, and maybe other parts. Why is this so important? Because we could come with this area and some other areas very close to the 30%. And I think it would be a fantastic message for President Lula to the world that Brazil, that has signed the Kunming-Montreal Protocol, is not just having something in the clouds, but is having reality. And the reality is possible, because we often learned, UN, they are meeting, and then they are deciding something very fancy, very big, but we'll never get there. We can get there, if we want. This is, of course, a proposal. This is a proposal that has been developed by the country here. It's a federal state will to have these biosphere reserves to come into 22%, and this creation of the biosphere reserve could come here. Again, UNESCO with all these sites can contribute to this, that at least we could achieve 50% of this challenge. And you can imagine what a big result, in fact, this signifies. Coming back to the UNESCO chairs, where I started, these are the ideal tools, of course, to promoting it, because something has to elaborate the background, have to bring it to the academia, to the decision-making processes, so that we finally can do this. And we have one series here on blue carbon that will work on that. And with this, muito obrigado, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Miguel. Do we have any questions for Miguel? Marion.
Yes, thank you, Miguel. Very impressive to hear about the biosphere reserve efforts. My question is, there have been recent oil drilling permits off the coast awarded or in Brazil. Will the biosphere reserve, would it be a kind of element of controlling that? Is it in any way related to this?
As you rightly mentioned, in offshore, this drilling, and not only here, but also in the Guianas, and this may have an impact because the streams are coming from the south to the north, so the impact can be even further. But this is not a biosphere reserve. This is totally outside. It is, in a way, also, I would not say really responsible for that, because this is responsible just in the area where it happens. But coming back to oil drilling, there is, for example, an idea that we had once in Mexico, Pantanos del Centla, where there were two let's say, options. A biosphere reserve, oil drilling with biosphere reserve or without biosphere reserve. These were the two options. So we were asked, Mexican government was asked, the local government of the Tabasco state was asked, and they said, okay, we go for oil drilling with biosphere reserve. Sounds like a contradiction, but it's not, because you can do this in a very ugly way. You can spoil everything, you can destroy everything, or you can force the companies doing that to do it well, and to do it extremely well. I mean, let's face it, we are still not out of fossil fuel use. There are a lot of talkings that we will move into only renewable fuels, maybe in the next 100 years. But right now we are not in. So we have to face the real world. Energy consumption is going up. So we have to face that. In many countries, Portugal, Spain, there are now over 60% of renewable energies, but there's still 40% left. And Brazil will use this. I think the discussion is not whether yes or no. The discussion should be how. No? And I think with this model implemented here and saying, okay, you will certainly have to do it, but do it well. This costs money. If you do it very badly, or if you do it well, the cost is from simple to double. In Bolivia, we could, in one biosphere reserve, hinder a total destruction of an area by using just a very delimited spot for oil drilling. So this is where these schemes go up into policy and really can decide, can force policymakers to do it well, because this is not a binding agreement. This is not World Heritage. This is an informal agreement. But no country would like to be blamed. And if you say you agreed to this here and you have done this, spoiled it, oh, not a good deal. This is the force that the program has. It's weak on one side, but very strong on the other side. Thanks.
Thank you very much. We'll continue with our presentations, and since Elisa could not join us, I invite Patricia Chavez to yes, of course. Yeah. So Patricia is going to talk about the question of building alliances between science and movements. Patricia, the floor is yours. All right. Wherever you would like.
Okay, the first thing is that we have a problem because, please, vocês podem se levantar, nosso grupo. Okay, you see, this is a lovely group of people, women, who are in the university. So the question here is not, can the university and the grassroots women be united? No. They are occupying the university because they have the knowledge. And I'm going to introduce you, Eliana. She is a beekeeper. So they are doing the work of preservation. Please, here is Amanda. She is a quilombola. And they are doing a fantastic work in her area. Is 7,500 hectares. In the Caatinga, we are talking about the Caatinga. They are preserving the Caatinga. They are planting the trees, but not just planting the trees. They are taking care of the trees. And then we have our friend from Joanna. They are from the National Network of Fish Women. And Dona Joana Mouzinho, she's the president of the National Network of Fish Women. And also we have Elsa, and we have another woman that is very important, Ana Paula. So the lesson here is that we are not talking about the divide between academia and social movement. We are saying that the social movement, the women from the ground, they are entering the university because they have their knowledge and they have to change the university, not to have a device and saying there is a practice we can do. And she, the one that's not here, she is an indigenous and she is teaching Libras and also preserving their land. Libraries. So what we are here to say is that, yes, we are very critical about what is happening in Brazil, but more than that, we are doing our part, and we are here to say that, yes, women from the ground, they have the knowledge, they are entering the university, they are transforming the university with their knowledge that comes from the ground. So we have to establish a real connection between, these two different knowledges. And that's the fantastic group that we have here. And we brought to listen, but unfortunately, there is no translation. Thank you very much for the...
Thank you very much, Patricia, for that. And I would, I would invite Amina to also for Elsa. And primarily, Patricia has already said that the question was on building bridges between the knowledge from traditional communities, the indigenous knowledge, and the knowledge which is created in science, in established institutes. And one thing you have already said that through the linkages, we are very happy to have this link, and by young people also entering universities, there's these bridges are already being formed. So I think the question that I would like to ask, and I hope that Amina, you can talk about it, is then what were the challenges of this of making it, and what were the strategies of overcoming that? If plus, thank you for pointing out about the translation. We have Bruna with us, who's a Portuguese speaker, so we're very happy to have the conversation bilingual. Amina, if you could talk about the challenges and how to overcome them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sundus. Thank you. Okay, maybe. So thank you, Sundus. Thank you, dear panelists, and thank you, Michel, because you give us some very good point that we can jump on. Yes, the bridges are here, and I think when Michel talked about endogene models, it's something that talked to us as in Feminist Land Platform and also as indigenous. I'm indigenous. My name is Amina. I'm Amazigh from Morocco. So yes, we need this this endogeneity of model because it's coming from the voices, from the experience, from what women are facing, and it's coming from a bottom-up approach. It's very good to see that we are here in university, and we know that university have been for a long time a state institution. So it was very hard before to see, yes, we are here, there is knowledge, but now I think that it's more open to change the way that and how to say the look that the university have about movement, social movement, indigenous people, and they are more. It's more open to change the narratives and to change also the culture, because it's a culture. It's a long culture. For a lot of centuries, we were not able to come or to speak or to be even how to say visible in such a space, but actually it's changing. I invite you, for example, to check the last report on Geo7 of UNEP. It's very important to see how it's included in the vision of what is this knowledge. Is it a traditional knowledge? Yes. Sometimes it's a traditional knowledge, but in a lot of cases, it's not just a knowledge, small knowledge, it's a science. Maybe today we have to change the way that we accept this ancestral science or indigenous science. Just to give you an example from Morocco, we are indigenous and we have what we call khatara. Khatara, it's the way to keep water from the mountain to a desert for 400 kilometers. It don't need to be in Yale or in Oxford to study mathematics and physics to know how to build this aqueduct from on this way. And there is a lot of examples. For example, for the eco agriculture. Yes, we have seen our parents, our families doing hybrid agriculture without changing the DNA of the acting on the OGM in the OGM way, but it has been done just by seeing, but by observing, but this interaction that we have with our land, territory, natural resources, and how we can, this capacity to learn from the nature reaction and interaction. For example, in a lot of countries of North Africa, where we have oil trees, we know that we cannot put, how to say, oil trees without putting his number or its neighbor, the fig tree, because they are taking care from each other. This is something that we know. We know that the small insect red with the black point, I think it's ladybird insect. It's very important. You know about bees, but we don't know about this. It's very important for the ecosystems and for the interaction between. And I think that actually this is something. Where is the gap? There is the gap between actual science and actual target and what is happening in the place. For example, actually we are talking about agriculture, but yes, agroecology, yes, but only it's used more in the industrial. It's opposite, in the opposite, but yes, in some countries, I'm specific, there is sometimes good ideas, good subject, but they are used in wrong way, not in the good way. And this is what you present with the silo. We have traditional silos, but it was traditional and it was safe, because when we, in the end of the year, when we make moisson, when we cut, so we take this result of 1 year of hard work and we cut it in 3 parts. The first one is for our need. It's for system, for the food security and sovereignty. The second one is for seeds, to keep the endemic seeds. It's important. And the third one is to be in action with other communities, because we are complementary. And we forgot a lot about pastoralism and the role of pastoralism, because by bringing their animals, they are making fertilization of the areas, and it's something that is very good and very sustainable. So yes, the bridges are here, but it will be more relevant if there is more opening mind and also a real volunteer to hear from people. But sometimes, if there is how to say a problem of how to use knowledge of people, the knowledge of those women, of indigenous people, is to take and to take into their contexts, not out of their contexts. You can take, for example, a traditional knowledge from a region and keep it and take it to another one. It will not work, because we have to keep it. It's in relation with the climate change, with nature of soils, the nature of the endemic vegetation. It's a holistic view of how to carry about land, how to carry about natural resource, and how to achieve this food system complexity, and to keep it by ensuring the food security and the food sovereignty, and also to keep safe this planet, and also to fight against climate change, because this is the resilient. It's not the first time that we have this kind of climate. We used to have it, and every time we have to use it in this way, not to say we will make more, for example, how to say, irrigation. No, sometimes we can do the irrigation, but sometimes it's not good to use irrigation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amina. I invite you to please stay with us on the stage. Please, you may take a seat. And we're really behind time, but I would have still a few questions, especially for the panelists, since we're all here. And maybe I can start with you, Sandro, that now we are talking about indigenous knowledge, traditional knowledge, which is often considered also at risk of being lost because it was transferred orally and it's not scientifically preserved. And this contextualized knowledge is also very important. With your experience of having, founded this graduate program, can you talk about whether or not there are processes in place to make this knowledge more widely available and incorporated in the university, and how to emulate that for other programs?
This is really a difficult question. No.
Yeah, but I think that you know the
Yeah, no, I don't. Unfortunately, I don't. But universities in general are very conservative institutions, by definition. No, so it is quite difficult to introduce other. I would say other, no, not the, let's say from academia, other types of knowledge into our way of doing what we do when we do what we do. So it is quite difficult. So we have tried over the years to bring this kind of knowledge into our approaches. And what I was telling you, of course, I concentrated on disciplinary knowledge from a scientific perspective, but you can also apply the same view with other forms of knowledge, because sometimes you also may have silos in other forms of knowledge, no, not only at university. No, although, as I said, universities are conservative institutions. No, and I think that it needs to be an effort from each one of us if you really want to bring this kind of knowledge to what we are doing. But systems, from my perspectives, is the way to bring these different perspectives when you are making research, for instance, no? Because just a short story. One day I was asking a professor of systems how I could really apply a systems perspective in what I was doing. And he replied to me, bring into your way of doing what you do different perspectives. So we can see that different forms of knowledge at different perspectives. But it's not easy because, as I was saying, the rewarding system that was built in our institutions normally excludes this type of knowledge. And we also need to understand, from my perspective, that we are dealing with different epistemologies. No, they are not the same epistemologies. They are based on different assumptions. So, and we need to be aware of this. And we are, in case we are aware of this, we can integrate these different types of knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, Krishna, you have a point.
Yeah, thank you. I think you mentioned Morocco. Would like to give an example. In Morocco, in the south, there is a tree called argan tree. And there's an area called the arganeraie. This is a prosopis tree that makes seed. Out of these seeds, almost exclusively, women of the area produce oil. And in the past, when I went first time to Morocco, you could buy it in a plastic bottle on the border of a street for 20 cents. It has become a biosphere reserve. The thing has been promoted. Right now, you buy a liter of argan oil in Paris in the most fancy shops for 20 euros a liter. And it's still only produced by women. So the technique has not changed, but the promotion and the marketing has changed. And I think it has created a huge income. And it has now on the bottles made in biosphere reserve by women in Morocco. So in a way, it's possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sandro said that he will answer the question in Portuguese. After the session, you can do that because we're really running out of time. But I have a space for one question. You have a question or a comment? Of doing it in Portuguese. Yes, of course. Yeah. If there's a question. That is definite, yes. Thank you very much, Adriana, for that. No, you don't have to be sorry. It's perfect. It's perfectly fine. Yeah. Marion, could you? Yeah.
A gente fez um esforço para pegar tradutores, mas com a COP não era possível de jeito nenhum. Todo ocupado. Então, nos estamos virando aqui. Entendemos o seu ponto.
All right. Yeah.
Eu posso perguntar em português? Ok. A pergunta para vocês é: será que a academia está preparada, né? Pode haver essa aliança entre a academia e as organizações de mulheres e as organizações e as populações que estão preservando os ambientes? Porque são essas populações aqui que estão efetivamente preservando os ambientes, plantando árvores, cultivando, mantendo os sistemas agroflorestais, produzindo comida. Nós estamos falando aqui em agroecologias, essas mulheres são campeãs aqui de agroecologia, né? Então, a pergunta é: a academia está preparada? E como é que a gente ressignifica o saber científico para se adequar ao saber prático que vem dessas organizações? Então, essa é uma pergunta: como é que a gente transforma essa academia e sai desses silos para, de fato, enfrentar as mudanças que vêm aí?
Obrigada. Marcos will take that question. Marcos will.
Okay, I think I will do it in Portuguese at the beginning. Tá. Eu acho que o ponto é muito relevante de que maneira que os movimentos sociais eles interagem com a academia. E para falar sobre isso, eu vou usar um exemplo concreto que eu vivi, eu fui parte disso. No começo dos anos 2000, eu interagia um pouco com o MST e também com o movimento de atingidos por barragem. E uma coisa muito frequente que a gente via era que depois que os agricultores recebiam o lote e se assentavam, eles continuavam a reproduzir exatamente o mesmo tipo de agroecologia que o mesmo tipo de agricultura que levou eles para a espiral de pobreza e que levou eles a perder a terra de novo. A agroecologia, ela estava confinada na academia por décadas. Ela era linda na teoria, mas não havia esse diálogo. E lá no começo dos anos 2000 foi quando o pessoal da academia, que tinha muito conhecimento teórico, mas pouca aplicação, começou a dialogar mais com os movimentos sociais. E eu lembro muito bem o congresso do MST, quando eles se deram conta, opa, a agroecologia é uma bandeira que a gente tem que carregar. Então foi a combinação da teoria e da prática, mas faltava um elemento, que era a parte da política. E daí quando a academia, junto com os movimentos sociais, se juntaram e começaram a fazer pressão, é que eles conseguiram mudar as coisas em alto nível. E daí que a gente começou a ter crédito, a gente começou a ter assistência técnica adequada, aí que os movimentos começaram a ter visibilidade, aí que pararam de matar gente. Porque eu conheço gente que morreu na lota da agroecologia, né? E ainda morre. Então, assim, não é um ator, não são dois atores, tá? E cada um tem as suas qualidades e suas virtudes. E o importante não é falar assim, porque vocês não escutam a gente. Na verdade, ouvir falar é uma coisa que depende dos dois lados. E o que a gente tem que buscar é o diálogo. E eu acho que a gente está buscando esse diálogo. A presença de vocês aqui é a prova viva disso. Tá? E a gente está fazendo isso, e eu acho que vai fazer mais ainda. Não tem volta esse caminho.
Thank you very much, everyone, for this very exciting session. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our guests for being here and for their wonderful presentations. And I would like to emphasize that this is not my first time that I have co-organized a session with the Feminist Land Platform. In our last session, we had Amina speaking in Arabic. I was speaking English. We had Patricia speaking Portuguese. And in a way, what this session has shown us is there are challenges, but we take one step and you take one step and he takes one step and we do this together. It's not easy, as we saw today, that it's not easy, but there's a willingness. And this is very important. That is why I do it. We all do it. Thank you again. And Bruna will also give her closing remarks in Portuguese. And later I hope we can have a lively discussion over coffee. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah. Próxima vez. Ótimo. Sim, sim. Muito obrigada. No, we have to close, really.
Nossa, com certeza, participando sem medo de ser mulher, para mudar a sociedade do jeito que a gente quer. Universidade juntando ao movimento de mulher, para mudar a sociedade do jeito que a gente quer. Participando sem medo de ser mulher. Graças.
Mas ela já disse. Agora a gente vai ter que fechar mesmo, mas a gente não podia fechar essa sessão melhor do que foi fechado agora. Muito obrigada a todos. É um prazer ter vocês aqui. Vamos continuar esse diálogo ali no café. É um prazer ter vocês aqui. Muito obrigada. Obrigada aqui a todos. Obrigada.